Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today we are officially kicking off our content in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I'll be doing a exhibition VGC-style best of 3 match, and so if you want to just skip to the match, check out the timestamp linked in the description below, but I'm just going to briefly introduce kind of the plans for content, as well as give a quick overview of the team that I'll be using in this battle. And some of you may be new to the channel, of course, with this being a brand new game, so if you are new, welcome. My name is Aaron. I focus specifically on VGC content on YouTube. I've been a competitive Pokemon player for over a decade now, played VGC very seriously back in the day, won a couple regional and national championships and got third at the World Championships in 2013, qualified for Worlds, I believe 8 times, and more recently now I work as a commentator for the Pokemon Company International, so I've commentated a couple of the major World Championships as well as a couple of the major online tournaments. So my goal with the channel is always to just spread my knowledge and love of VGC and hopefully entertain you and also teach you a thing or two along the way. So if you're new, welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for always coming back and watching my videos. So my goal for, the next couple of months, especially with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, is obviously VGC is going to stay in Sword and Shield officially. And once the actual VGC circuit returns, all of the tournaments will still be in Sword and Shield. That being said, it doesn't mean that you can't play double battles in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and there is basically kind of an unofficial VGC format that, players have been playing, which is basically the standard stuff: bring 6, choose 4, you have team preview, you have item clause, no mythical Pokemon are allowed, and so yeah, I think it'd be really fun to split some time here. This is obviously a very different metagame. There are a lot of Pokemon that we haven't seen in Sword and Shield, a lot of old Pokemon and returning faces that I think will be really cool to try out as well. And overall, my goal is to just have fun, right? And try out all kinds of different team compositions and hopefully teach you a thing or two along the way. I think the main thing here is that this is a very low stress environment. There's really nothing on the line, but at the same time, we get to try out a lot of cool Pokemon and strategies. So that's the general plan here. I will still make Sword and Shield content, but I think it'd be fun to sprinkle in a couple of, BDSP exhibition battles every now and then. So before we get started today, I am going to be going up against Yoshiller, who is a YouTuber. He focuses on all kinds of Nintendo content, so I've linked him down in the description below. Huge thank you to him for agreeing to do this battle with me. And the team I'll be using is one built by a player called Bars, who is able to get very high up on the ladder with this exact team. And they're actually kind enough to actually send me a copy of this team in-game, so I really, really appreciate it. It's a really cool kind of slightly anti-meta team. You do have some kind of meta Pokemon in Rotom and Garchomp, but it features Hariyama and Exeggutor, which I think are really, really fun Pokemon. And, I've actually used both of those in VGC tournaments back in the day. So the general idea here is that you have a ton of heavy offense, right? Rotom Wash with that Choice Specs can one-shot a lot of Pokemon. Garchomp can set up with that Swords Dance and has that Life Orb. Togekiss is a really valuable partner for Garchomp, right? Because you can redirect attacks away while Garchomp can Swords Dance. And you've got some fun techs like Exeggutor and Hariyama. Exeggutor and Hariyama is actually a really strong offensive duo, especially under Trick Room. So often with this team, you'll either want to set up Trick Room early and then just sweep with it in the early game, or use Pokemon like Rotom and Garchomp to try to disrupt your opponent and then clean up the game with Hariyama and Exeggutor. With the Flame Orb, Hariyama, once Guts is activated, can just one-shot so many Pokemon that don't resist it with close combat, so it just does so much damage. And then Exeggutor is actually a really nice meta pick because a lot of, common Pokemon right now include things like Rotom Wash and Breloom, and Exeggutor is quite good against both of those. You got Arcanine for Intimidate. The safeguard here is primarily to set up and stop things like Breloom, and then Snarl's really valuable since there are a lot of common special attackers like Rotom and Cresselia, and then finally Togekiss for redirection support. So huge thanks to Bars for the team. I have linked a paste in the description below if you want to try it out yourselves as well. So yeah, thanks so much as always for watching. If this is something you enjoy, please show your support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. Question of the day, I want to know how you would rate the remakes out of 10. I haven't finished playing through it personally, but, I think I'd give it somewhere around a 6 or a 7. I have been enjoying it a lot. I think that I really wish there was like an in-game ladder to even play with here. That's like my main sadness, but overall, it definitely feels like a faithful remake. So let me know yours in the comment section below, and let's get started. All right, into our very first exhibition best of 3 VGC style in BDSP, and we're going to be going up against Blaziken, Breloom, Milotic, Lucario, Quagsire, and Mawile. Okay. So, Milotic, you've got competitive. I think Specs Rotom Wash here generally looks really good, but Breloom is quite scary to go up against. Well, Exeggutor is actually really good, I think. I think Milotic is probably the thing I'm most nervous about. And also Breloom. If they didn't have Breloom, I would just play towards Rotom immediately, but obviously Breloom's quite good into Rotom, especially with Spore. That's where Arcanine can have some value because this does have Safeguard. So actually, in game 1, I'm actually thinking of leading Arcanine and Rotom. Normally, you don't want to activate competitive on Milotic, but the thing is, like, I've got Specs Rotom, which can just Thunderbolt the Milotic anyway. So I'm actually willing to activate competitive if it means either getting Intimidate off. And if they don't lead Milotic, obviously that's really good for us. I like Executor a lot here. And then I think for the last one, I want something that counters the Blaziken. There's no ground immunities or resistances here, so Garchomp's not half bad. Okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. I don't know if this is really the best 4, but once again, this is a best of 3, so there's plenty of room for adaptations and to, you know, just see how things work out. So yeah, super excited to dive into it, and it's gonna be Mawile and Breloom. Okay, this is the beauty of Safeguard Arcanine, and this is the primary reason why Safeguard even exists on it, because otherwise Breloom can just freely Spore, and that's obviously quite problematic. So I think Mawile is interesting here just because, you know, obviously can't Mega Evolve, and so I don't think it's super scary right now, but Breloom obviously is going to be an issue for the Rotom. So I could pretty easily pivot Rotom out into the Executor, and I think I will set up a Safeguard just to be safe right now, no pun intended. Mainly because, you know, there's a decent chance here that Breloom is Focus Sash. That's by far the most common item. It is going to switch out though, which is fine. And we're going to see probably Blaziken come in. Okay, it's actually quite a good switch right now. Just because I brought in Executor, which obviously doesn't love going up against Blaziken. So, could have made some better predictions there maybe on turn 1, but I think getting a Safeguard up is always valuable, especially into a team with Breloom. And it's Quagsire. Oh, very interesting. Okay. So we get Safeguard up. Now what do I want to do? I think Arcanine pivoting out into Rotom is fine. Honestly, I don't really mind a double switch here. Maybe instead Arcanine goes out into Garchomp. And then we switch out into Executor, or into Rotom. I like a double switch here just because I think Intimidate has a ton of value for us in this game, especially against Blaziken. Swords Dance Blaziken is probably the one thing I'm worried about, so I'm mainly curious about its moveset. Back in VGC 2015, I actually used Blaziken at the World Championships and used the set with, like, what was it? Flare Blitz, Superpower, was it Ice Punch? I actually don't fully remember the set, but Blaziken, you know, does get access to a lot of very powerful attacks. Okay, so we're just switching non-stop right now, which is really interesting. And the Mawile switching is actually quite good here to get another Intimidate off, and that's actually going to be very valuable into Garchomp right now, but that's okay. Because realistically, now I get Garchomp and Rotom out next to each other. This is the other interesting thing about this format, where without Dynamax, like, you have a lot more room to, you know, just switch out with a little bit more confidence. There's the Tect, and there's a Speed Boost. Cool. I think we set ourselves up for a really good position now. I could easily pivot Garchomp back out into Arcanine this next turn to get another Intimidate off. The question here is whether or not I want to, like, Volt Switch, Hydro Pump. I don't mind Volt Switching here because I could see Blaziken switching out. Hydro Pump is pretty safe, though, because it does cover for Quagsire coming in. Yeah. And if Breloom comes in, that's fine, because at this point I would be bringing in Arcanine anyway. So, I think Quagsire is the main thing I'm interested in seeing. It's not a Pokemon that you really use too much in VGC, and Mawile is also pretty interesting in a non-Mega form. Just regular Mawile is relatively weak, but Intimidates obviously has good value. Okay, so it's just a Detect here, that's fine. Now I can Hydro Pump Flare Blitz Blaziken with full confidence this next turn. Stockpile! Oh, whoa. Okay, that is interesting. Not something I expected to see here. But I'm not really that worried about its damage output, truthfully. Like, so I'm down to just Flare Blitz and Hydro Pump the Arcanine, or Blaziken slot again. If Hydro Pump connects, it's a guaranteed knockout onto Blaziken. Quagsire would probably be the best switch in right now, but I think the main thing that we have going for us is that my Pokemon are... Like, my opponent has some fast Pokemon in Blaziken and Breloom, and it's been interesting, right? We've spent a couple of turns and neither of us actually have done damage to each other yet, and it's just been non-stop switching, but we, you know, we've gotten some information from both ends. It's just gonna be Sucker Punch on a Rotom. Okay, it's not much damage. Rock Slide's scary because it can flinch, but with the Intimidate, it's not really that scary in terms of damage output. It's Life Orb on the Blaziken, okay. Arcanine doesn't flinch, but Rotom's the more important one here. And once again, the reason to double up there is just to cover for potential switch out into Breloom. Yeah, Rotom does flinch. Okay. That's alright. Obviously a little bit frustrating, but I still think we're in a pretty good spot. We can take another Rock Slide easily. Honestly, they're taking a lot of recoil right now as well, which is valuable. So I'm honestly down to Flare Blitz and Hydro Pump Mawile right now, because like the Blaziken also is slowly going to be in extreme speed KO range. I think actually after another Life Orb hit, given how much that first Flare Blitz did, I think we can knock it out. And yeah, it also covers for a Detect option here. So that's good. Just another Sucker Punch from Mawile. This time in Arcanine. That's actually pretty good damage, and that's a crit. Okay. So things are getting a little bit scary, but I think this Flare Blitz should actually put us in berry range, which is valuable, and even with the stockpile, we do so much damage to it. Seeing the way the HP bar moves in this game definitely stresses me out a little bit, because it moves so quickly. But we get a nice boost of recovery there from the Mago Berry, and Hydro Pump here is able to connect, which is fantastic. Okay, good. Stockpile Sucker Punch Mawiles, definitely not something I'm used to seeing in VGC. Okay. So there's another Beast Boost. We're at the point now where maybe Extreme Speed in itself can knock out Blaziken, and do know that if we knock out Blaziken, we have a very good matchup with Executor, because Executor kind of walls both Breloom and Quagsire right now. So here, I am down. I mean, another Rock Slide's probably going to come out. The question is whether or not we'd want to risk switching in Executor, because here, like I said, I think if we actually just knock out the Blaziken, we should win. So I'm down to Extreme Speed it. And then I think switching Rotom out into Garchomp here is fine. Actually, I don't see a world in which Rotom really can win. Like, I don't think it's that important for us in this endgame, is what I'm trying to say. So, honestly, I'm down to just Extreme Speed and Hydro Pump the Blaziken slot. Maybe even lose both of our Pokemon, but it would mean a free switch it into both of the Pokemon we have in the back. E-Speed doesn't finish it off. It's another Rock Slide. That's fine. We should survive with both. It's the beauty of having the Berry on the Arcanine here. Nice. And I think that's a knockout onto Blaziken. Great. Pretty good value from Blaziken ultimately here, though. And it's Substitute Breloom. That is interesting. Okay. Typically in VGC, you'll see... do we flinch here? We don't. Okay, nice. In VGC, you should expect in, like, Diamond and Pearl for it to be Bullet Seed, Spore, Mach Punch, and Protect. That is gonna, like, with the Focus Sash, that's by far the most common. So it might be Poison Heal. Yeah! This is a little bit more of a singles-oriented set, typically, just because Breloom's main value is getting, like, a single Spore off and getting a lot of momentum off that. But now we're in a position where Executor really should just be in a very prime position. So, I'm down to just Flare Blitz Breloom here and Hydro Pump into Quagsire. Well, they might have Mach Punch here, right? So you get Mach Punch into Arcanine. The question is whether or not there's really any reason to switch out here, and honestly, I don't really think there is. Like, if they Mach Punch and KO us, so be it. I just get a free switch in, and then Quagsire really shouldn't be able to do very much in a Rotom. I just don't want to throw away my main win condition, but looks like here we are able to just get the knockout. So, no Mach Punch. Okay. I think generally we just have strong damage output here, and there isn't... Like, Blaziken and Breloom, I think, are really scary offensively, but Breloom being Poison Heal and Substitute. So it's actually Water Absorb. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was going to be that or, like, Damp. Water Absorb obviously makes much sense. Either way, though, it's fine, because we just bring an Executor now. So I think the main thing that we have going for us in this matchup is that we have a lot more offense than our opponent does. Like, they're going to struggle to actually deal good damage. I do have to note, though, that this Quagsire actually completely walls Rotom, so going into Game 2, and or Game 3, like, I have to be a little bit careful about actually just bringing Rotom out immediately. But I think, like, Mawile, if I were my opponent, I would not bring in the subsequent game because it just doesn't do anything with Stockpile, and, like, Sucker Punch, obviously, is, like, pretty insignificant damage as well. Quagsire is interesting, but it does get so hard countered by the Executor here, so I feel like we generally just have pretty good typing matchups across the board, and this is where Intimidate from Arcanine is really important because it allows us to obviously shut down the physical attackers, especially Blaziken. I think without Intimidate, Blaziken would be a lot scarier. So it's good to see that they have Rock Slide. We've confirmed that. Just seeing Rock Slide Detect, Flare Blitz, that all makes sense. So, yeah. Okay, I think in Game 2, I could contemplate... Like, I would like to try out just the Trick Room mode with Hariyama and Executor, but My opponent's team is a little bit on the slow. Well, I guess they do have Breloom and Executor. Sorry, Breloom and Blaziken. I think Lucario and Milotic would both be good adjustments from their end. Like, I think you could easily bring both of those. So... I kind of want to try the Trick Room mode here. Executor, Togekiss, Hariyama, and Arcanine. This is very different from the last game, and I don't know if we need to go with this, but if I were my opponent, I would drop both Quagsire and Mawile. I would lead maybe Milotic Breloom, which is kind of scary. Although I guess with Milotic Breloom, I could just Safeguard and Thunderbolt turn 1, but I'm kind of down to just try out this different mode. You know, it's a fun exhibition, best of 3. I think that the Trick Room mode is also quite strong against my opponent. And in best of 3s, like, you know, if something isn't broken, like, you don't need to fix it. But here, like, yeah, the Milotic adjustment is really smart from their end because it covers. This is actually really good from them, I think, because you get an Intimidate off, and then now I can't just safely, like, switch into Arcanine either. So, I think this is a great adjustment by them. Although, I think if I wanted to hard counter this, I would have led, like, Rotom plus maybe Togekiss, or Rotom Egg even. I am still down to Trick Room, I think. Honestly, I'm down to just Trick Room and Dazzling Gleam here. Like, let's get some chip damage and then just try to sweep. Oh, they just go for Sucker Punch. Okay. I don't have that much incentive to attack with Executor here. I expect maybe an Ice Beam. Uh-oh. I mean, it's fine damage-wise. I'm mainly worried about getting frozen. Okay, but no freeze. That could have been very bad. Cool. So Executor sets up the Trick Room. It's Blizzard Milotic. I can Energy Ball now safely, but do have to worry about competitive. I think I'm down to just Energy Ball here and follow me. I don't know if Energy Ball's a KO onto Milotic, though. That's my question. You could also protect Milotic or even switch it out here, but we know Mawile has Sucker Punch, so I just don't want to get hit by a Sucker Punch right now. And they smartly don't go for it. Okay, well done. It's fine to just play it safe here, I think. And we don't knock out the Milo. Oh, no. Oh, it's not competitive. Oh, boy. Wow. You know what would have been a disaster there? If it was competitive Milotic, and then Blizzard came out there and picked up a double knockout. I didn't even think about that as a possibility. That could have been really bad. Now we're actually in pretty good shape. What were their switch-ins? Quagsire? Like, I think Psychic here gets the knockout anyway, so I don't mind going for Psychic because it covers for a Blaziken switch-in in case they go for that. And now we know it's not competitive, so I can just switch into Arcanine with relative ease. So fun to use Executor, though. Like, Togekiss and Arcanine and Garchomp we've all used in, you know, Sword and Shield, but obviously, like, one of my favorite things about, and one of the reasons I want to play VGC and BDSP is because of so many of the Pokemon that, you know, we couldn't use until now. Great Sucker Punch, okay? So reads into it this time around, but with the Intimidate, and without Mawile being, like, a Mega Evolution, the damage output is just pretty insignificant, honestly, and Intimidate's so good for us here. So, honestly, thinking about the last turn, like, I don't think we feint to a Mawile attack anyway, and it is scary, because we, if it were competitive Milotic, which I assume is in the game, that would have been really bad. Now Breloom comes out, and I think Executor is just so strong here. I keep pressing Y, because I'm used to Sword and Shield to double check the field state, but you do have to know that in this game you have to count your Trick Room turns. But pretty easy hack against that, or a pretty easy way to check that is to just look at the amount of PP that you've consumed. Just keep in mind, you know, in case you're going up against pressure or anything, but, you know, we spent 1 PP on Energy Ball, 1 on Psychic, and Trick Room obviously came out first, so yeah, it's a helpful way to count. So it's not going to be Focus Sash on Breloom, right? So I can just Psychic it here, I think, and Flare Blitz the Mawile. It's relatively safe. Okay, Mawile switches out, maybe in a Quagsire here, but I think that... Oh, it's actually in a Blaziken. Okay. Yeah, I think Executor here just has a really good time. And it's a really cool anti-Metamon in this format, actually. And so, yeah, it just gets the 1-hit KO on a Breloom. There are a lot of Pokemon that are weak to Executor in the BDSP format. So, ultimately, I think, like, we just had a lot of good fundamentals here, right? And our opponent's team kind of struggled to deal, like, significant amounts of damage. which was good for us. Executor was really nice. Setting up Trick Room was pretty valuable for us in this, although I do think things could have gotten really ugly if it were competitive Milotic, specifically because they had Blizzard as well. So, yeah. It's another Intimidate here. I will say I am used to now, like, with Sword and Shield the game, like, checking the field state of everyone's condition. This is the last turn of Trick Room, so you would think that Blaziken is going to detect here. Right? And I don't mind sacrificing Togekiss here, so I actually don't mind a double switch right now. We could probably just Psychic and Flare Blitz as well, but like I think switching out Arcanine and then bringing it back in is always valuable for an Intimidate, given that both of my opponents are physical attackers. And even if you were to like one-shot Hariyama, which I think is bulky enough to take an attack from Mawile, and Togekiss, I think Arcanine and Executor are really strong for an endgame. Mawile goes for the Sucker Punch. Nice decision to not protect there with the Blaziken. Actually just goes for a Rock Slide, but that's fine, right? Because now I just bring in the Arcanine, get an Intimidate against both. Actually, it may be smarter. You know, yeah, the path I like more here is actually bringing out Executor. That's a great play to not protect Blaziken, but we have a big enough lead here where I think it's fine. And I think what I can do now is just bring in Executor and then use Hariyama to fake out into the Blaziken and then use Executor to set up Trick Room right now. So let's go for fake out here, and then let's go for Trick Room. And then we can just close combat the Mawile Psychic into Blaziken, and that should be GG. So, let's see. Okay, no Protect here. Fake out in itself might actually just KO hard. It almost KOs the Blaziken. There's Play Rough on Mawile as well. It's actually really good damage, but not enough for a knockout. So it's Play Rough, Iron Head, Sucker Punch, and Stockpile. Play Rough, Iron Head, Sucker Punch actually makes sense. That was by far the most common Mega Mawile set back in VGC 2014, and Mega Mawile is one of my favorite Mega Evolutions from back in the day. So that all makes sense. Now we know that Mawile can't protect, so we can just close combat Mawile here and switch out into Arcanine for an Intimidate right now. I think the main thing is that with my opponent's team being so physically oriented, dropping an attack drops with Intimidate is really valuable, right? Because there's really not much of a way around it. So yeah, Milotic not being competitive really saved us here. I think if it were, we might have actually lost this second game. Mainly because I didn't take into account the drop, right, from Energy Ball. So in my eyes, I was like, okay, yeah, even if we don't pick up the knockout, that's fine. We don't really need to pick up the knockout. It'll be in a range where then the next turn I can just switch Arcanine in and then Energy Ball again. You don't want to Sleep Powder in a position like that just because you don't really need to rely on it, but yeah. And most Milotics are competitive, so yeah, had that been the case here and then Blizzard like double connected again, we actually would have been in a pretty awkward scenario, but now we can just go for knockoff and E-Speed, or close combat E-Speed, doesn't really matter, and that'll be GG. So it's really fun to use Pokemon like Hariyama and Executor again, and I think like those two aren't exactly like super common in the early like BDSP, VGC-esque meta, but they're quite good here, and glad to feature like the different modes of the team. In the end, we ended up bringing all the different Pokemon, so yeah. I think the main thing here is that fundamentally we just had a lot of good damage, and you know, using Pokemon like Mawile can be a little bit difficult because they just don't, like, Mawile specifically doesn't offer very much damage. It also takes a lot of damage from, you know, Pokemon that are decently common in the format. Garchomp is one of, you know, common pick a lot of players like, for example. Rotom matched up pretty well against it as well. And the main thing here is that we were able to spam Intimidate without being punished as much. But in my head, I was expecting it to be competitive Milotic, right? So I was like, okay, let's make sure we knock out Milotic first, then bring in Arcanine for the Intimidate. And I think Specs Rotom was really strong here as well. There actually were some pretty good answers against it in the Breloom and at the Quagsire, but a lot about it is positioning, right? Game 1 was really interesting because we were both basically just switching back and forth to try to gain, you know, control of the battle. And so, yeah, like, you know, one of the things about this format, especially with no Dynamax, no Megas, no Z moves or anything, is that there is more opportunity to just like consistently switch every turn because you're not worried about like just getting KO'd by a max move, for example. But ultimately, I think, you know, we just had a lot of good bulk on our Pokemon. They had better damage output, and we were able to like take advantage of opportunities when we were faster. The only thing that was scary is Blaziken being faster than us because he could just spam Rock Slide, and we did get flinched, as you saw in Game 1. And so like that's part of the reason why I wanted to go towards Trick Room, because even though my opponent had some slow Pokemon, i.e. like the Quagsire, there were Pokemon that don't really pressure us with very much damage. And so like Executor, I think, was an excellent pick here, especially in this game, because of its ability to pressure the Milotic specifically, and also just set up Trick Room for us. So yeah. Thank you to Yoshiller for the battle, and thank you to you all, as always, for watching. We'll be doing a lot more of these exhibition best of 3 sets in the upcoming days and weeks, so really appreciate you all for watching. Would love any feedback. Would love to know, what kind of Pokemon or teams you'd like to see. So don't forget to answer the question of the day. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.